All right, back again, ladies and gentlemen, for a third video this Sunday afternoon. Today is March 16th. It is 12:30, and since I don't really have much time to do videos during the week, it seems like the weekend's kind of the only time that I can do it. So it's my third video today. Hopefully, you can catch the other two. I talked about the majors, spiders, Qs, the semiconductors, Bitcoin, and I just made another video talking about a bunch of tech stocks. So I'm going to continue in this video talking about a few other random stocks, and hopefully that'll be it for today. So if you haven't had a chance, please go back and watch those other videos. There's a lot of information for you. I'm going to kick this video off starting with Home Depot. So last week I told you guys about the head and shoulder pattern. So you got a shoulder, head, shoulder, broke below this trend line back in Monday last week. Well, actually, it broke below before that. It was previous Friday. Kind of retested it intraday, and then it just broke down. Last week was a crazy week. A lot of financials and staples broke down, and Home Depot got slaughtered way more than what I thought. I didn't expect Home Depot to break down as fast as it did all week long. I actually took profits, and I wish I held, but I took profits on Wednesday, a little too soon, okay, because I really thought it was gonna kind of pause for a little bit, maybe get a bounce, and then get back in that at a higher level, but it didn't. It just continued to sell off. So whatever. I took profits. I'm happy with it. Nothing wrong with taking some profits. That was the second time I actually that was my second trade. I took profits on the first trade, bought in at a higher level, shorted it again, took profits on the second trade. I'm probably going to do another trade. Um, you see, so basically on Friday it went all the way down to 345. Yeah, 345 was the low, and then it markets bounced on Friday. Okay, Friday was a green day pretty much in the markets. So it went back up to 351. It closed at 351. It's still into a lot of resistance now. This move is supposed to take it down to 320, right? So if I measure from 440 down to basically 380, that's 60 points. 60 points below this trend line here, it takes it down to 320. So, I'm kind of hoping maybe this gets a little bit higher, 355, maybe 360, 363. That would be great, but probably not more than 360. But whatever. I'd like to, buy another put on this and short it down to 320. So again, not financial advice. This is what I'm doing. But this head and shoulder pattern played out real fast. I mean, faster than the head and shoulder pattern that I had on Apple and Microsoft. Microsoft's a little bit tricky. I don't know if that one's going to work out or not, but we'll find out. Let's talk about AMD real quick. AMD, with the rest of technology, had to move back up higher. It's trading at around 100 right now, holding 100. Can it go higher? Sure, a few bucks extra, maybe a little bit more. But eventually, I see this coming back down to $90. And then who knows what's going to happen after that, right? So that's AMD. Basically, all the same goes for all the other semiconductor stocks. Netflix had a huge, sold off big time on Thursday the 6th. That was the previous week. A huge fucking fall. I wish I shorted it from here. I don't trade Netflix often, but I almost caught this. I was just literally minutes. I was thinking about putting a short on this right around 950, and I was waiting for it to break a level right here. Yeah, I was waiting for it to like break 949. I think I was looking at an hourly chart at the time, and I missed it. I stepped away from the computer for like 20 minutes, and the fucking thing just tanked. So now, it went down to 863 last week. It tagged this trend line. I had this trend line support basically from August, right? So this is pretty good support right here. And now it's kind of trading in the zone. So I've got this trend line from the head and shoulder pattern, and it's kind of sort of in the middle, a little bit more to the upside. So it's very, very possible that we can see Netflix kind of make a move back up to the 940 area before it falls back down to 872. Oh, sorry, 872. Eventually, I expect Netflix to fall below, break below this trend line here, and come back down to the 700, 80 range, possibly lower. Netflix is another stupid chart, another name that just went ridiculously off the charts, along with Meta and everything else, right? Um, let's see what else. I don't really want to talk about SMCI or Carvana. Let's talk about DocuSign had earnings, I think, on Thursday. It shot up on Friday after earnings, tagging the 50-day moving average here, right? And I pretty much shorted it once it hit that. And so right now I'm in the money on my short, but we'll see what happens this week. It can certainly bounce around, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to hold, very high much longer. If the markets, come down further, I expect this to come back down, and sell off. Most of the stocks that have, I'm surprised it even held, to be honest with you, because most stocks that had good earnings and shot up on earnings, a lot of them sold off instantly. So we'll see how long this holds on DocuSign. Let's talk about Schwab. Schwab and the other financials, the banks, the JP Morgans, they got slaughtered these last couple of weeks, and along with everything else, right? And Schwab went down to $69. It broke below that 200-day moving average. I thought it was going to come down into the mid 60s and eventually probably lower, but everything had a decent comeback this past week, and it was looking kind of choppy right here, this Monday and Tuesday, and then it broke above the 200-day moving average, right? Went up, came back down, and then gapped up on Friday along with everything else in the market. But it came into pretty good resistance right here, 20 and 50-day moving average. This is considered like a necktie, bow tie type thing, a bow tie. Where the 20-day and the 50-day cross, or any two moving averages where they cross. That's pretty heavy resistance right there, and you can see there's like a double top kind of right here. So we'll see what happens with financials this week. It's probably going to sell off eventually. I don't think it's going to continue to go higher. SOFI, kind of the same thing. It came into the 200-day moving average, and had a nice comeback. Right below, close right around $12, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with this one here. Can it make a move higher back up to approximately this level right here, 13, maybe 1350-ish, before it makes a leg down lower? That could very well happen. Uber holds up. Uber is kind of hanging in there better than some other stocks. All right, it's it was kind of doing pretty well to begin with, and then it fell, chopped around a little bit, and then it fell further. Now it's into some pretty good support, right? 20 and 50-day moving average right here. You can see that they're crossing. So this is some pretty good resistance right here. I mean, Uber kind of got beaten up earlier on before the rest of the markets broke down, and when the market started to break down, Uber went up. Right, so it's a decent level. If it falls back into 65, I kind of like it there. To be honest with you, I would that would be a good level for me. I think to buy in. Not financial advice, but I think that's a decent level. If I look at a weekly chart, you can see it's got some strong support here on a weekly chart. If this breaks down, however, all right, and it comes back into the mid 60s, but goes below that, I mean, if we have a major market sell-off, then I don't know. I mean, this thing could definitely fall down into the $50 range and possibly lower. So we'll see what happens with that. All right. I don't know when earnings are for Uber. Let's see when earnings in 45 days. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Oops. What did I do? All right. 3M. So this one was kind of tricky. I got into 3M a couple of times, made money on the first trade, and then lost money on the second trade, and I stopped out. 3M, let me go to a daily. I mean, it was kind of choppy when everything else was selling off. It got beat up a little bit. but it's this past week and a half, it's been holding up, right? So overall, the market, the chart on 3M looks pretty strong. As everything has been selling off, this thing has been holding up. Um, I don't know if it's a Chinese company. I think it's a Chinese company. Don't quote me on that. I could probably look it up, but like Baba's been holding up decently, and 3M has been holding up decently, right? So this to me, it looks like it wants to go higher, and I really was expecting this to go up to about 170, and it very well can. But the market's been so crazy that I got out of it the second time right around 145, and no, actually, yeah, I think I got out of it in 143 area or so, and it went up afterwards, and I'm like, what the fuck? So, but then it came back down, but it's holding this support area right here. So it's very possible we can get a higher move, but then again, I don't know. Maybe it's just lagging, and eventually it does fall further, right? So we will see. It made a low here, and then a lower low. Here was a one high and a higher high. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We will see. This one is stay tuned. UPS, I also had a nice trade on UPS. All right. I took profits here. Well, first I took profits here, bought in again a little bit lower, moved up, took not more profits here at 123 was when I took profits because it came into some resistance right here. I said it was going to sell back off, and boy, did it. I mean, it sold off pretty a lot more than I thought it would. It broke below the 20-day moving average. And now it's kind of hovering here. So we'll see what happens with the markets. It's very likely this could, kind of consolidate sideways a little bit and then maybe move back down lower. And maybe it breaks this trend line, or maybe it'll hit this trend line again and bounce, or maybe go lower. We'll see what happens. But my initial thought was, it hit this long-term trend line support. If I go to a monthly, this thing has been since back of '09. So this is a very good support level. However, if I readjust this, I mean, this is why I like this trend line, because it's kind of right below the 200-day moving average on a monthly. But if I readjust this where it hits, it kind of tags the bottom of this pivot here, right? And now you see on a monthly, it came into that 200-day moving average. And it went up a little bit. Now it could fall further. So maybe it will, break down below the 200-day, come down to like 102, 103 area before it makes another move up. So that's a very good possibility. But I would like to see eventually UPS breaking above this trend line up to like 130 and breaking up from there. But we'll see what happens overall in the markets. Let's go to American Express, another financial stock. This thing sold off after earnings. Okay, let me go to a daily. So it had earnings right around, I think right around here, and it sold off. All right, and it chopped a little bit sideways, sold off a little bit more, and it's been selling off, stair-stepping its way down with the rest of the markets and the financials. I was able to take a couple of good trades early on before it really broke down. Things really started to get bad, and I have been, it's been falling step by step into decent support, and I just I have been watching it along with other financials. I did not expect financials to take this much of a dive these last couple of weeks. I mean, they just got slaughtered. But now you can see it's below the 200-day moving average. Even though it got a bounce with the rest of the market on Friday, it's still below the 200-day. There's a lot of resistance here. On a weekly, it made a bottoming tail. So this is a bottoming tail, which means it may have bottomed out for at least short-term time being. Maybe we'll see a little bit of a bid higher, depending on what happens in the next couple of weeks with the markets. But long-term, if things really get bad, this is going further to the downside. I mean, honestly, long-term, American Express has been on a rip, on an absolute tear, really, from 2020. With the rest of the, like JP Morgans of the world and Goldman Sachs and technology, right? It had a huge similar, leg move up and then bear market. and then it went back up again. So wouldn't be surprised to see this back into the 230, 240 range, and then maybe even lower back into the $200 range. We'll see. Here's JP Morgan actually. All right, JP Morgan had a huge move up, topped out around 280. And funny enough, that's where Jamie Dimon took his sold the rest of shares that he was going to sell right at the top. Isn't that funny, huh? And coincidentally, that's basically around the same time that Warren Buffett sold a lot of his stock portfolio and went heavy into cash. So these guys obviously knew what was coming. All right, I would say not many people in the world knew what was coming, but they definitely did. And we'll see what happens with JP Morgan. I mean, can it fall lower to 200? Very likely. Baba. Yeah, Baba. So Baba is now into some pretty good resistance. I mean, we'll see what happens with Baba and China. Eventually maybe the bigger move is, to the upside. It looks like it's going to go higher on a weekly chart. It's consolidating. So, it's very likely we can see Baba move from, let's see, 80 to 145, 65 points. 65 points from here would bring it up to 190. Yeah, 65 and 25. Yeah, about 190, right? So it's very likely we can see it get up there, but I don't know when, right? 190 takes it up to, wow, even higher. So pretty high, I mean, that we'll see. I don't know. I honestly don't know what's going to happen with that. Anything else I want to talk about? HIMS got killed like Palantir and Hood. It's funny, like Fundstrat was saying to, buy it here. Like, fucking kidding me. Along with Palantir and Hood and AppLovin, like ridiculous. And look at it now. Well, I expect this to go lower. I don't think it's gonna, might get a bid, but I think it's going lower. Same thing with Hood. Hood is, it hit this trend line right here at 35. It had a move up with the rest, but it's into some resistance here. Can it get a really big bounce up to the mid 40s? Possibly, but I expect this to continue to go down a little bit with everything else. That's it, guys. There's, obviously a lot of charts that I can get into, but I'm not going to. So we'll cut it short here. I can go on and on and on about every stock, but I think almost an hour of analysis on a Sunday is good enough. All right. So hope this was helpful and interesting to all of you. And, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you will. And if you find it good enough to share, that's even better. I would really appreciate it and help me build that YouTube channel. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you and take care.